Yo, Triple Eight Mega here, Bad Deck Enthusiast, and I'm here to share with you a fun deck that you can use that features a couple of the new cards from the Newborn Dragon Selection Pack. But first, we're on the road to 200 subscribers, so please like and subscribe because it would mean a lot to me and inspire me to help make more videos featuring my favorite decks in Yu-Gi-Oh! Master Duel. So after you finish climbing to Diamond 1 like we did, and if you missed that, the video will be in the description below, you might think to yourself, what else can I do with these branded cards that I spent all this money on? Well, allow me to show you Branded Dogmatika. Branded Dogmatika is a control deck that utilizes the Dogmatika ritual monsters to rip out your opponent's key extra deck monsters, while also building board presence and summoning Mirror Jade to hold the line and gain additional searches and threaten your opponent with a board wipe, which if it works will allow you to do it all over again next turn. So now let me show you the deck list. First, let me tell you that I don't think this deck is very competitive, but it is a fun thing you can do with your branded cards when you're finished playing Despia. And I wouldn't recommend building it, but if you happen to have Diviner of the Herald and you know the branded cards, then maybe you might want to build this deck. I have most of these cards because I also play Dark Lord, so I had the Diviners already. I already had the Natis, and because I pulled for Branded Despia, I also have the Branded Fusion, as well as the Mirror Jade and the Titan Clouds. So what the deck does is you looking to summon both your ritual monsters on the field at the same time. And what they do is White Knight of Dogmatika. When a card or effect is activated, you can look at your opponent's extra deck and your extra deck and send one of each card to the graveyard. That's a hard once per turn, but you also have White Relic of Dogmatika. What White Relic of Dogmatika does is that it'll gain a permanent boost. Two monsters will gain attack half, I think it's half the total attack of two monsters on the field. So you target two monsters on the field and then you decide which one you want to gain the attack boost. It'll gain the attack boost of half of the total of both the monsters. As well as when your opponent special summons from the extra deck, you can look in the extra deck and send another card to the graveyard. So if your opponent summons Halki Fibrax, you can look in the extra deck and send a Rorodon to the graveyard. And if they only play one, then now they can't summon a Rorodon, and it's pretty funny. I would say that this deck is kind of rough to play at this moment because if you send Despia's extra deck monsters to the graveyard, they like that sometimes. They'll send Albion if you give them the choice, or they'll send Titanclad, and now you're looking at them adding in the end phase, which is a bigger problem. But other than that, this deck is pretty cool. We do play a minimal branded fusion package because we're just looking to summon Mirror Jade. You might use Albion to send one of these guys to the graveyard because Ashian can add it back. So that's another play. As well as you can send Lubellion. Usually you'll go into Albaz and Tragedy, add your only Alubur. Alubur will then add Branded Fusion, but if you happen to open that already, Branded Retribution is the card. I would say this is one of the main cards of the deck and the reason why to play the deck, because over the course of your Dogmatika combo, you're going to try to send Titanclad and Albion to the graveyard, which automatically makes this card live. It allows you to take two fusion monsters in your graveyard that mentions Fallen of Albaz as material and negate the activation of a summon and shuffle them back into the deck. So you're just doing it all over again. You do want to play the one side from Lord Omega. If you have a feeling that your opponent is going to send a card that you don't want in their graveyard to the graveyard, then you send this to the graveyard with your Maximus and shuffle their card back in the deck so they won't get the effect if it's an effect in the end phase like against Despia. You also play your Natis. You could play more Natis if not, but since I only have one, I also play a Skull Knight and a Skull Wagon, and they banish themselves from the graveyard to destroy monsters or spell and trap cards respectively. The hand traps are optional. You really don't need to play them, but going second for this deck is pretty rough. So I added in the two Lightning Storms, some Effect Veilers, Ash Blossoms, and Impermanence. Other than that, I would say that the core of the deck is Herald of Arc Light. You can send 1 to 2 of them per turn to the graveyard to get your adds on your White Knights, your White Relics, Dogmatic Cabre, or Dogmatic Calamity. Other than that, you want to go Diviner of Herald, send your Herald of Arc Light, search a ritual monster, and if you happen to have Ecclesia in hand, then you make Elmirage, and then you special Ecclesia, and you go from there. The deck is pretty cool. It does have some weaknesses, but since it's a fun deck, I think you guys might enjoy it. So this first video is us against Dangerous Scrap Orcust. It looks like a 60 card grass deck. I'm not sure what they were going for, but ideally you guys want to go first and you want to see a hand. This hand looks kind of cracked, to be honest with you, but your opponent could have interruptions. So let's see how this plays out. So we're going to go first. We're going to use the Branded Opening in the standby phase. This plays around Duel and Effect Veiler. We're going to use Aliber to add our Branded Fusion. We're going to use Pre-Preparation of Rites to add Dogmatika and White Relic. And then we're going to use Branded Fusion. Our opponent doesn't have anything, so we send the White Knight and the Fallen of Albaz to the graveyard. We summon Albion. Albion will then trigger. We're going to banish the Aliber and the Albaz. We're going to go into Lubellion, the Sarin Dragon. And the reason why we pitched the White Relic, it could have been any ritual monster. Dogmatika can summon from the hand or the graveyard. So knowing that, I didn't have a problem discarding a ritual monster. And I wanted to get Albion to the graveyard. That way we can keep our Mirror Jade live. And we don't have to banish it to get the add in the end phase. So then we activate, we summon Mirror Jade. We use the Diviner, we send the Herald of Arclight, we get Dogmatic Calamity. Dogmatic Calamity is a cool card. It allows you to pitch a monster from the extra deck to fulfill the ritual condition for your monster. So you want to use this card, but it's unsearchable from Pre-Preparation of Rites, so you have to keep that in mind, and that's why we play more than one. So you go White Knight of Dogmatika. Now we could summon back the White Relic of Dogmatika, and since we have the White Knight on the field already, we can now send a card from the extra deck to the graveyard, either mine or his, as well as gain some attack points. So what we do is we send his Dingirsu to the graveyard, and I looked at his whole extra deck when I did that, and I think that this was the card that was the right send. So we gain attack points equal to the combined half total of both of these monsters, and we add Fleur de Lis to the graveyard with our Titanclad that we pitched with Dogmatic Calamity. Our opponent goes Scrapyard, and I have no clue what's going on. I'm expecting Dino. I wasn't really privy to the card amount in his deck. He goes and uses the Ghost Ogre, but we send White Dragon at Ignister, White Pegasus at Ignister, and what this does is when a card on our field is destroyed by battle or card effect, we can then banish this card from the graveyard and target one card he controls and shuffle it back into the deck. So it's good for getting rid of monsters and protecting you from getting like clapped really hard. So he goes into the Scrap Raptor. We're going to banish it. Send in the Titanclad. He's going to negate us with the Forbidden Droplet, both the White Relic and the Mirror Jade. Then he goes to target himself, but since we search Fleur de Lis and we have extra deck monsters on the field, we can negate it. He has Destrudo. So he goes into his Destrudo, into Hulk. And we can't really activate because we're negated. He goes into his Mecha Phantom Beast, into Nightmare Unicorn, gets a token back, pitches the monster in his hand, goes into his token collector to pop his token, I guess. And I guess this was because he wanted to make access code. Like, I'm not too sure. So then he goes into access code. Gain his attack points. He'll pop a monster. That activates our White Pegasus. Shuffles him back into the deck. And he scoops it up. So the thing about this deck is you have to be really careful what you make your opponent send to the graveyard. And I think that's why I cut the Maximus count. Because we were playing 3 Maximus at once. But when you summon Maximus, your opponent gets to choose. And that kind of hurts us. With all the Despia on the ladder, I think it's better if you choose which you're sending to the graveyard. So this next duel is against Adventurer Despia, and we're also going first. And I'm only really showing you guys go first videos because honestly you don't want to go second with this deck. It's a fun deck. You go second, you're not going to have enough interruption, but because we upped our hand trap count a little bit, there is a chance that you can go second and survive, but you really want to go first and set up your board because it's kind of hard for your opponent to play through it. So we're going first. We open up 2 Rites and the Dead Servant. The Dead Servant is a 1-card ritual summon, and Rite is a 1-card ritual search, ritual and spell search. So this is a pretty okay hand. So we're going to go first for Rite. We're also checking for Ash here. and he just doesn't have it. So we're gonna add the white knight and the dogmatic cabre, and then you want to go into Dead Servant for white relics, send in the Herald of Arclight, and to search for the dogmatic calamity. Now you want to use dogmatic calamity with your white knight of Dogmatika, because it has to descends from the extra deck to the graveyard to summon based on the levels of the extra deck monster you sent. And you want to send your Titanclad to the graveyard so that you get those additional searches in the end phase. Special summon Ecclesia, search Fleur de Lis. And you want to summon this. You want to summon White Relic when White Knight is already on the field with your Dogmatic Cabre, so you can look in your opponent's extra deck and rip a card out early before they even get to play the game, so that you know what your opponent's playing and you can prepare for their strategy. So we go Dogmatic Calamity first, and we're going to send the Titanclad. We're going to summon the White Knight of Dogmatika. Then we go Dogmatic Cabre. And Dogmatic Cabre can banish extra deck monsters from the graveyard for the ritual summon if you have those in the graveyard. So because we went with the Herald of Arclight play, we had it in the graveyard for the Dogmatic Cabre. So we're going to gain attack, doesn't really matter. Set our Imperm. Use our Titanclad to summon Ecclesia. Ecclesia will search for Fleur de Lis. And when we summoned that, we ripped his Mirror Jade out. So we already knew he was on Despia something. We didn't know it was Adventurer Despia, but just ripping out the Mirror Jade, if you could rip out all the Mirror Jades, it's pretty strong. So our opponent goes up now. He summons the Aluber. We have the Imperm, and you were saving Ash for Branded Fusion. He goes Comedy. Comedy is really good for dodging targeting effects, but to us it doesn't matter unless it's Branded Fusion, because we can Ash the Branded Fusion. And because he activated an effect, we can now activate our White Relic, our White Knight of Dogmatika, and rip 2 more cards out the extra deck. So we send his Mirror Jade, and we send our Wind Pegasus adding Nister, no, White Pegasus. And now he's going to go Branded Fusion. So we're going to Ash that. And that's the end of the duel. So I guess Ash won that duel for us, but we did take out both his Mirror Jades. And honestly, I think he would have had to make Lubellion to shuffle one of them back. But in the process, he wouldn't be able to summon the Mirror Jade. He would have had to summon something else, and we would have been safe because we had the Wind Pegasus adding Nister in the graveyard. This next duel is against Branded Despia, but this time it's not Adventurer Despia. And like I said, I'm showing you guys go first hands because you really don't want to go second. So we're going to go first, and once again, we're going to Ash check with the pre-prep. We're going to add the Dogmatic Cabre and the White Knight. And then we have the Dead Servant. This card is limited to 1, so Konami, please free this card. It's not doing anything right now. Herald of Arclight. We're going to add Dogmatic Calamity. And our hand kind of looks cracked, but it's kind of the same as last time. We're going to pitch the Titanclad. We're going to summon the White Knight. And then we're going to use Dogmatic Cabre. We're going to banish the Herald of Arclight. We're going to summon the White Relic. And then we notice his Mirror Jade, so we rip the Mirror Jade out. Gain a little boost. Doesn't matter. This time we're going to special summon Ecclesia and search Ashian. And what Ashian does is when an extra deck monster goes to the graveyard, you can special summon him. And if you special summon him from the hand, you can take a Dogmatika card and add it back to your hand. So it's our opponent's turn, and we're holding up the line. Our opponent goes Branded Opening in the main phase, so he's not playing around Droll or Effect Veiler. And he goes into Aluber, tries to chain block it with Tragedy. And it doesn't matter. We're going to rip his second Mirror Jade out. So say goodbye to Mirror Jade. Also, we send Albion this time. So 2 Mirror Jades in the graveyard. And we have Albion and Titanclad. He adds the Branded Fusion, but this time we do not have the Ash. We special summon Ashion because of extra deck monster went to the grave. I'm going to add back Dogmatic Calamity. He's going to go Branded Fusion, and we can't stop it. But because he doesn't have any Mirror Jades, he goes into Lubellion. Then he activates the Lubellion, pitches Comedy. We're going to rip a card out of his extra deck and try to target and negate him. Not target. This doesn't target. We're going to try to negate him, but he uses the Comedy to get the Lubellion off the field. Fleur de Lis will resolve, special summon itself. White Relic will resolve, sending his Dragostapelia to the grave. And at this moment in the duel, I'm pretty sure he was like confused as to like what he was going to do next. I honestly couldn't tell which card he was going to summon next when I looked at his extra deck, but I assumed that Dragostapelia would be the most threatening card that was left in there. And he had 2 Guardian Chimeras, so we couldn't rip out the Guardian Chimera. It didn't make sense. So he goes into Quiritis. Quiritis can make all of our monsters 0, but I don't know if... I guess he didn't want to do that. And then he goes into the Guardian Chimera. We didn't know he had the Branded in red. I don't think we knew. But either way, we kind of can afford to get our board a little wiped. Dramaturge will summon back itself. And I guess he should have activated Quiritis here, so that's his mistake. But because he didn't, he couldn't afford to do it afterwards. So we make Ashen. Ashen will make all of our monsters gain attack points when their monster attacks. And White Relic has another effect where level 8 Dogmatika monsters can't be destroyed by battle. So he didn't read, and he kind of could have cleared our board if he did read. But because he didn't read, now he has to kill the White Relic here. And he has to pass his turn. And he scoops after that. I don't know what he was fearing. He probably could have won this duel. But that just shows you like the power of our turn 1, being able to take both his Mirror Jades and stop him from playing. Just enough so that he has a doubt in his mind that he can't win the duel. So this last duel I'm going to show you guys is against Rose Adventure Attendee. And it's pretty cool. So we're going first, but this time our hand isn't too crazy. We're going to pitch the Dogmatika because in any case scenario we could get another one. We're going to search for Branded Fusion. Stand by main phase. We're going to activate it. And if our opponent had Ash, he could have just Ashed us. We kind of didn't care. But we sent the White Relic to the grave and the Albion. I mean, the Albaz to summon Albion. Albion will then banish. We'll send Albaz and the Alubur to then go Lubellion. And we're going to pitch Cold by the Grave because he hasn't Ashed us yet. So I just assume he doesn't have it. And that's really what we're saving Cold by for. We go into Mirror Jade in defense mode to play around Lightning Storm. We're going to go Dogmatic Calamity. Pitching the Titanclad. We're going to summon the White Knight. And we're going to end our turn. So Titanclad will activate. Special summon Ecclesia. Search Fleur de Lis. And so we have right now a banish. We have to rip cards out of his extra deck. And we have a non-target monster negate on the field. He's going to go right of our Mercier. Summon the token. And we're going to try to destroy it. So we send the Tis to the grave. And Halki Fibrax. Royal, by the way. He's going to use Cold by the Grave on the Natis. So there goes our interruption. Had I known he had that, I probably would have sent something else. But this forced out the Cold by, so I guess it's pretty good. So we're going to banish this token so he can't gain any advantage from it. He's going to add the Griffin Rod into his hand. Sending to the graveyard Destrudo. He's going to special summon the Griffin Rider. He's going to summon the Rose Dragon. And he's going to make Baron the floor. So right here, he summons back the Rose Dragon. He's going to search. Search for the Draco back. Rose Dragon will then Rocks Rose Dragon. Add the Basil Rose Shoot. Then he's going to try to destroy the White Knight. We're going to trigger Fleur de Lis. And I think right here he should have negated this, because had he negated this, we were done for. Maybe not completely done for, but he would have been in a better position. But since he chose not to negate this, I think it cost him the duel. So it's going to resolve. Or maybe he thought he could negate it on the field, but this effect triggers from the hand. So you negate before you even resolve the summon. So he attacks the Ecclesia. He's going to attack the White Knight. End his turn. Titanclad will then trigger, summon another Ecclesia. Ecclesia will then, he'll try to negate us, but he can't. Ecclesia will then add Maximus, and now it's our turn. We draw into Ash. I'm not sure if Baron can still try to negate, because he tried last time and he got negated. But we're going to crash just in case. That will trigger our Mirror Jade in the end phase. Fleur de Lis will then gain 500, or we all will, and attack. And then we'll hit him for 45. And then in main phase 2, now that Baron's not on the field, we're going to go Maximus. Banishing the Mirror Jade. Activate the Maximus. We're going to send Albion and the Machine Skullwagon to the graveyard, as well as his Auroradon and his Almirage. Then we're going to try to pop the Basil Rose Shoot. I didn't know what it was, so I assumed that it could be a threat. He summons back the Rox Rose. Rox Rose will then add Red Rose. And we could have asked that, but I don't think it was relevant, so I didn't do it. Albion will then add the Branded Retribution, which is live because we have 2 Albaz fusion monsters in the graveyard. So if he does a special summon, we can shuffle these back in the deck and negate it. Here he goes. He tries to add. I use the Ash Blossom. And just like that, it's all over. So once again, this is the deck. And do I think it's competitive? No, but it is a fun deck. I'm having a lot of fun playing it in Diamond 1. And if you guys have the cards, you probably should give it a chance. I am going to try to add more rituals to the deck. But for now, I think this is probably the best way to run it, or with the tools that I have available to me. I do think that Branded Retribution is a cool card, and this deck utilizes it very well. But usually your opponent, if you're winning, will scoop before you even get to flip it. Then you have cards like White Wind Pegasus at Ignister, which is pretty strong, and can ruin your opponent's whole plan if they don't read when you send it to the graveyard. Because usually you're sending multiple cards to the graveyard at once, and they don't see it coming. Then you have regular removal for spell, trap, or monsters. You have your search targets right here. You have your Mirror Jade, and you can get by with 1 Mirror Jade in this deck. I don't think you need more than 1, but I do think Diviner is crucial. By sending Herald of Arclight to the graveyard, you can use it to set up your play, as well as summon an Almirage. So opening up Diviner and Ecclesia is pretty good. Nadir's Servant is just really good by itself. Branded Fusion is good by itself. Dogmatic Calamity and any of these cards is good, because if you want to go White Relic, you can use Dogmatic Calamity, send Herald of Arclight to the graveyard, summon this, and get another search. So depending on your hand, it's really cool. Then you have Search 2 with this. You have some Disruption. You have Branded Opening, summon Aliber for the deck. And I do think 1 Aliber is fine. Maybe you can play 2, but I cut 1 for hand traps, because I was finding that I needed more hand traps to go second. But as you can see, I didn't show you guys any go second duels, so I don't think those go second duels even mattered, and I should probably just maximize on going first potential going forward. But yeah, this is the deck. I hope you guys enjoy it, and please like and subscribe, and thank you for watching. And remember, if it works for me, it can work for you. Pieces.